This is the official Pokemon scenario guide for Diamond and Pearl. What does that mean? It's basically another strategy guide for this game by Prima, not to be confused with the official guide for Diamond and Pearl from Nintendo Power that we looked at a little while ago. In terms of the contents of each guide, they both go through the whole game, so let's dive into the scenario guide and see what this one has to offer for us. On the first page, it says, you are a Pokemon trainer, in case you forgot. It then details our 2 goals, which include winning the championship in the Sinnoh League and catching a ton of Pokemon. The same for just about every other main series Pokemon game. We then have a map of the Sinnoh region. Then this takes us to the introduction section, which shows us the primary methods to catch Pokemon. We can catch Pokemon in the wild, let them evolve through battles, earn an egg from a stranger, and trade Pokemon with friends. I wouldn't normally advise accepting random eggs from strangers, but in the world of Pokemon, as long as it helps you fill out your Pokedex, I guess it's alright. This part goes over all of the basics you would expect, and we don't have time to go through every single page in this video, but it does explain the 3 move types. We have attack moves, defense moves, and special moves. That isn't entirely correct, since defense moves are really status moves and don't necessarily always help with defense. Then later on it shows the 3 categories of move effectiveness and says physical moves, special moves, and status moves, so I don't really know what the difference is here. It then calls vitamins like protein or zinc ability items, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Then it goes into battle mechanics, spells citrus berry with a C instead of an S, and yes, there is a full berry section in the back of the guide in case you were wondering, that even has a picture of each berry, which is so cool. There's a lot to learn about Pokemon Diamond and Pearl in this official strategy guide, but if you want to learn other cool things, that is where Skillshare, the sponsor for today's video, are here to help. Skillshare has classes on a wide variety of topics, like illustration, graphic design, social media, film and video, and tons of others that are worth exploring if you're a content creator as well or just curious to learn more. Skillshare is a great way to learn a new skill, and for me personally, this class for YouTube creators to help manage creative projects by Ashante Bean is a great way for me to be more efficient and learn how to improve my content. They even have classes on freelancing and entrepreneurship if you want to level up your hustling, learn more about starting your own business, or if you were just curious about starting freelancing. The first 500 people to use my link in the description will get access to one of Skillshare's best offers, 30 days free and 40% off your first year of Skillshare membership. Use my link in the description to join Skillshare. Thanks again to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. I read through the rest of the introduction pages explaining all the basics, since I like to play these games with the guides as if I know nothing about Pokemon and try to follow exactly what they do. So let's load up Pokemon Diamond and beat it how Nintendo intended. First, I name ourselves Boy, because on the very first page of the guide it says the protagonists are boy and girl. Then I name our rival Nintendo without the O because it didn't fit with it. And the very first thing the guide says to do is check out the posters in our room. I've never seen a guide tell us to read the posters, but they do give us basic information on the game, so for a newer player, it's definitely worth it. Then we go downstairs, talk to our mom who tells us about our rival, wonder what his dealio is, then go next door to meet our scatterbrained rival. Then step 3 just says, the route. The route. The route is on fire. Just get used to the random song puns every now and then, since there's kind of a lot. Once in Lake Verity, we meet Rowan and his assistant Dawn, then steal one of their Pokemon to use as a starter against these Starlies that just attack us. The guide doesn't say much about the starters, so I just picked Turtwig since it was the one that I picked when I first played Diamond and Pearl, and I just think it's cute. Then we can go to Sand Gym Town and name our starter Subscribe because, well, if you aren't subscribed already, you probably should be. Then what's in the fridge? Midge, in the back of the Pokemon lab is a refrigerator. Inside are lots of sweets. Does Rowan have a sweet tooth? I hope he brushes daily. The guy then tells us to sign our trainer card and spend all of our money in the mart, so I do just that and buy at least one of everything. We now have to return to Twinleaf Town as the guide makes us flip back a few pages, since instead of putting everything in chronological order, it sticks everything in the area you would have first seen it in, even if you have to return at a later point. Here it tells us to check out the PCs and the posters, again, because they're very important. Then our mom gets all up in our fashizzle, and yes, the guide actually said that, so let's just head right to Jubilife City. I'm getting a strong inkling that whoever wrote this guide was a teenager in the early 90s based off all these references and lingo. But before Jubilife, there is a page to outline the version differences, which is neat. Although, fun fact, these statues of Dialga and Palkia are actually just the same statue. They just look like Dialga or Palkia depending on how you look at it. Then a section on routes 219 to 221, which we can barely access. Route 202, where we have some trainer battles and catch a Shinx named Like, because again, if you haven't liked the video, you probably should. Then finally make it to Jubilife City. Here we can go to the school and get our map from Nintendo. Then the guide says how we can register our most useful items, including the town map and fishing rods and potions as well. I had to double check to see if we can register potions in our bag, but it turns out you can't. You can only register key items. We can clown around in Jubilife for a bit and get a fishing rod as well as a few other items, then make our way to Oreburgh City, where we can get our first gym badge against Rorik. Before that though, it shows a page on in-game trades as well as Mindy's infamous Haunter trade. It doesn't tell us that it's holding an Everstone and won't evolve when you trade it, so let's see if it says anything about her Haunter when we reach Snowpoint City later on. Now we can rock through the Oreburgh Gate, which takes us to Oreburgh City. We have to find Rorik, and the Wi-Fi Club opens up here as well. The guide then says, forget about it, you gotta be connected. In order for you to truly enjoy the Nintendo Wi-Fi connection, you need a PC with a wireless router or the Nintendo Wi-Fi USB connector, sold separately. I used to have this connector, and yes, I found it just to show it in this video, so I was able to play Diamond and Pearl online back when this game came out, and believe it or not all routers back in 2007 had wireless capabilities. Nowadays they all do, and connecting to the internet is just easier than ever. I mean, there's a very good chance if you're watching this video right now, you are connected to the internet. At least that would be weird if you weren't. Next, we can Abra trade Dabra by trading him a Chop for this Abra, catch a Zubat, and Zubat her up by showing it to this guy for a heal ball, and also adding the Zubat to the team, I guess. Then visit the mines to see Rorik so we can return to his gym. The guide shows us what Pokemon he has, the types and levels, and then suggests which types to use. One of these types is Grass, and we have to start with a Turtwig, which is a Grass-type Pokemon, so this fight wasn't bad for us at all, allowing us to get our first gym badge in our adventure. Now we can flip back a couple of pages to the section on Jubilife City and also travel back over there in-game, punish Team Galactic with the help of Dawn. Then the guide shows us a few of the routes that we can access now, although some are optional and we can't even fully access them until later on, like parts of the Ravage Path that require Surf. Our next big stop is in Floroma Town, where we can do our berry best by harvesting and replanting some berries. Don't use it until you reproduce it. Sounds a lot like your mom. We can also trade some berries for some nice accessories. Then it says to go back to Twinleaf Town. I don't know why it says that, because it tells us about our rival who went to Eterna City, which is the next town over, and there's no reason for us to return to Twinleaf right now. I'm guessing this was a mistake and maybe they meant return to Floroma Town, but we just go to the Valley Windworks instead. Here we fight Galactic Commander Mars, who has a Zubat we can counter attack with electric moves from our Shinx, then go after Purugly with fighting moves for the victory since we have Rock Smash now. After the battle, our Shinx evolves into Luxio, and we head up north to the Eterna Forest. Here we meet Cheryl, who can help us through the forest and encounter some mystery moss that evolves a mysterious Pokemon. I wonder what that Pokemon could be. Turtwig evolves in the forest, then trees a crowd. We learn about honey tree encounters, which are very annoying in this game, before making it to Eterna City. Here we learn about the sleepy guy you can encounter between midnight and 4 AM in the condominiums, who just speaks gibberish because he's so tired. He doesn't give you anything, I just never knew about this NPC. We meet Cynthia here too and get the Cut HM, then head right for the gym against Gardenia's grass-type Pokemon. We have Zubat, and the guide suggested flying types that worked out really well. Then we catch a Bidoof just to use Cut, naturally. Learn about these bike lots for a bike that we don't have yet. Then head into the nearby and totally not suspicious Team Galactic building to rescue the bike shop manager. Before that though, it says we can get the EXP All, but I think it really means the EXP Share, as the EXP All was in Red and Blue and not in any game after that, or at least until after Diamond and Pearl. And then we head into the building and fight Jupiter and her poison types. That girl is poison, never trust a big butt and a smile, so we bring an antidote and lay waste to her team to clear out Team Galactic for now, and stop them from stealing any more Pokemon. Now that we have a bike, we can cruise down the cycling road, evolve our Zubat into Golbat, and find the odd keystone on Route 208. After Route 208 is Hearthome City, which has a few facilities for us to check out. Then the guide says, if we don't know where these facilities are, ask a man for help, he'll show you around. It doesn't say which man, but there is this other man who gives us an egg. We also learn about Poffins, then get the goods from Mr. Goods. He sometimes gives you rare items, which isn't sketchy at all, so after seeing our mom in the contest hall and battling our rival again, the guide doesn't really say much about the rival fights by the way. We can just go to Route 209 and the Lost Tower. Here we can get a good rod, find the imposter Pikachu, then use the odd keystone to bring out the hollow tower, although nothing else happens. The guide only has a quick section on the Lost Tower which we need to go through in order to get the Strength HM, finally leading us into Silesian Town. There isn't that much for us to do here aside from get some Pokechaps and check out the daycare, so instead we just head on to the next route, buy some milk near these Psyducks, and make it over to Veilstone City. The description for Veilstone says, first step, challenge the gym leader. Then, on the very next page, for step 1, it says to get a Pokechat from the department store. So which is really the first step? I'm kind of confused. We have some other small things to do here, like get the coin case before it finally shows us the section on Maylene's fighting type gym. As usual, it recommends types for the battle and doesn't say too much about the battle itself, so we use our Golbat since it's a flying type Pokemon for the fighting type gym. I've noticed lately I tend to use Golbat a lot in my playthroughs, but to be fair, the guy did literally tell us to catch a Zubat this time, so I guess it's fair. After defeating Maylene, we help Dawn against Team Galactic, get the Fly HM, shop till we drop in the department store. Then before leaving, we have a whole section on slot machines. The funny part about this is I'm leaving for Las Vegas soon, and I'm pretty sure the day this video goes out, I will literally be in Las Vegas, but I would much rather gamble in this video game than use real money anyway. Then for the next few routes, we see some Pokemon like Girafarig, which still has its old Gen 2 art in the guidebook, since at the time that this guide came out in the early Generation 4, they didn't update all the Generation 2's Pokemon art styles to the modern style yet. Although I say modern style, but most of these designs have been around since like 2004. There's a few small sections before we reach Pastoria City, but then the guide calls me out by saying, "Our tubers, losers." We can ignore that for now and go right to Pastoria City, get Defog in the Great March as well as catch a Wooper named Twitch, follow me on Twitch by the way, linked in the description, and get ready to fight Crasher Wake's gym. Wake employs water types, and the guide suggests electric types and grass types, perfect for us since we have Luxio and Groddle to defeat him in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. Before leaving Pastoria, I just wanted to show you this part which says stuck in a puddle, just wiggle it. If you get stuck in the mud in the Great Marsh, just hit the D-pad a few times and jimmy yourself out of this annoying mess. The page after that then shows daily events, which is pretty cool. And now we can either go back to Fantina's gym or go into Celestic Town, so I just go to Celestic Town first, see Cynthia's grandma and Cyrus. Then Hearthome is where the badge is, so we go over there to fight Fantina, but Golbat evolves into Crobat first, which I didn't know it could do before the National Dex, but that's pretty nice. We can do Fantina huge damage with dark moves, and good thing half of our team has Bite or some other good dark type move, so even though we're a little under leveled, we still get through her ghost type Pokemon pretty easily for our 4th gym badge, or was that 5th gym badge? That's actually our 5th gym badge. The Wooper we caught back in the Great Marsh had the EXP share this whole time, so it evolves into Quagsire shortly after the gym, and since we decided that the sailor's life is for us, we can go into Conalave City. When we cross the bridge in the city, we're met by our rival Nintendo, who fights us again. The guide also doesn't say much about the fight here besides outlining just his team. Then we learn the secrets of the library and go over to Iron Island. It is optional in the game, unlike it is in Platinum version, but we need some more EXP, so I figured we'd go there since the guide has a few pages on it too. We meet Riley here, Grotle evolves into Torterra. Then after clearing out Team Galactic here, Riley gives us an egg that I never bothered to hatch before returning to Conalave City to fight Byron in his gym. The guide suggests fire types, again, something it suggests a lot throughout this game, but if you know anything about Diamond and Pearl, aside from Chimchar, there's literally one other fire type Pokemon you can get before the 8th gym, which is Ponyta, so it's pretty difficult to have fire type moves, let alone fire type Pokemon. Instead of that, we just use ground type moves from Torterra, learn the hard way that Bronzor is immune to ground moves because of its levitatability, but also use water moves from Quagsire to get through Byron for our 6th gym badge. After the Conalave City gym, we have Professor Rowan's story time where he tells us something about evolution. He then asks us to check out the 3 lakes in Sinnoh, and when we leave the library, we shake, rattle, and roll because of an earthquake that hits. This earthquake was caused by Team Galactic doing some explosions, so we have to hurry to Lake Valor before it's too late. Lake Valor has special significance in the water-abundant Sinnoh region because it is where the legendary Pokemon Azelf lives. Sinnoh isn't really that water-abundant, at least not compared to Hoenn, but we don't need to beat that dead horse anymore, so let's just go in there and fight Team Galactic. My team isn't even full of 6 Pokemon yet, but it's a pretty generic Sinnoh team so far by the way, with our starter Pokemon, Luxray, Crobat, Quagsire, and then this Bidoof just for HMs. It turns out we are too late, and this lake isn't really a lake anymore since there's just no water left from the explosions, so we fight Team Galactic Commander Saturn again. It again suggests fire type moves for Bronzor, but we still don't have any, so after we humiliate Saturn, we can verify at Verity to check on the professor's assistant. We arrive just in a nick of time to assist the assistant. Mars is a fierce combatant, with a mix of Pokemon that might not present a problem to a less prepared trainer, but not to one with Electric, Ice, Psychic, or Rock type moves to take out her Golbat, Fighting type moves for her Bronzor, and Fire type moves to put her Bronzor and her plans to rest. Yeah, it mentioned Bronzor twice there, but probably meant Purugly the second time because it just didn't mention Purugly. With Mars out of the way, we still haven't put the kibosh on Team Galactic's plans yet, so let's accelerate to Acuity. We can't really accelerate there though, since we have a long trip up north through the snow in order to get there. We get stuck in the snow and become a mountain climber along these routes. Then we don't break through to the other side when we see Team Galactic. Even though we're supposed to be saving the Sinnoh region and the world right now from Team Galactic, we still have to go to Snowpoint City first and get our 7th gym badge. In Snowpoint City, we have cool things like the house of an old man who teaches you trendy sayings to improve our vocabulary. It also shows the Haunter train in the map, but doesn't say anything about it in the actual walkthrough. But there isn't really much else to do here besides battle the gym leader, whose name just escapes me. Here the guide says, when you enter the Snowpoint City gym, you'll have to work your way around the gym, sliding down and crushing snowballs until you finally reach Candace at the top. 6 trainers will block your path to this cute but clever gym leader. When you finally approach her on the dais, you'll find the 3 Fs will serve you best: fire, flying, and fighting types. I don't fully understand the flying type suggestion since this is an ice type gym, but I guess flying does at least hit her Medicham, which is a fighting type Pokemon. I even caught a Medicham nearby to get a fighting type to have at least 2 of the 3 Fs, and it serves us pretty well in the gym against her ice type Pokemon. We also went to Crobat on her Medicham because it is a flying type, I guess, but she has Ice Punch, so flying types really weren't great against her. Now that we have the 7th gym badge, we can go back to Lake Acuity, tell the grunts to step aside, then start ribbing your rival. I don't know what that means, and I'm not even going to try to understand what that means. But basically our rival couldn't stop Jupiter at the lake, so she laughs at us then spoils her plans by saying she's going back to Veilstone City, so we have to backtrack all the way over there to stop Team Galactic. Even though the Galactic buildings are in Veilstone, we don't have to flip back for this part, which is pretty nice. Back in Veilstone, we learned the key to infiltration is a key, which is needed to open up the Galactic Veilstone building. Once we open it up, we need to find a new key, take a quick nap, then fight Cyrus again. Cyrus may look tough, but all of his Pokemon are vulnerable to Rock-type moves. We don't really have Rock-type moves at this point in the game, but we still get through Cyrus with the help of Luxray and Medicham. After Cyrus, we have another battle against Saturn, which again suggests Fire-type moves for the Bronzor, if only it was that easy. Then the chase continues. We have to free the Lake Trio by heading up to Mount Coronet. Cyrus is up to no good. Now that he's gathered the power of the 3 legendary Pokemon, he's got plans on Mount Coronet. Don't let him get away. The funny thing about this part of Mount Coronet is it says we need 5 field moves including Rock Climb, but doesn't exactly list out the 5 field moves. It does show them on the previous page though. I was just confused when I first noticed it. Getting through this part of Mount Coronet was easy enough with a few grunt battles along the way, leading us to the time where we fight Mars and Jupiter in a double battle. We should be used to this pair and their Pokemon by now, so we take care of them pretty easily. After that, we fight Cyrus, and the guide says Cyrus may be angry, but that doesn't change the weaknesses of his Pokemon, even if they have leveled up. Which is true. Despite being a little underleveled for us, we still take care of him and free the Lake Trio, then fight Dialga. To capture this mighty Pokemon, you need to start out strong with fighting or ground type moves, causing 2 times damage and reducing its HP by a lot. Then, chip away at it with normal, water, electric, or flying type moves, which only do half damage. Grass type moves are also good for hurting Dialga without completely knocking it out so you can capture it. After that we can get the shiny, but not the shiny Pokemon, just the adamant orb behind it where Dialga was, then go back to the lakes to catch Uxie, Azelf, and Mesprit. The 3 legendary Pokemon have returned to the Great Lakes of Sinnoh. Now is your time to track them down and hopefully catch them all. We also just added Dialga to the team over Medicham because Dialga's just cooler. First up is Uxie at Lake Acuity. The guide says to hit it with Bug, Ghost, or Dark type moves first to get big damage off, then weaker moves and throw Pokeballs at it once it's weakened. It pretty much says the same thing for the other 2 of the Lake Trio as well, although Uxie was really stubborn. It gets to really low HP. I put it to sleep with Yawns from Quagsire, and threw so many Ultra Balls and even regular Pokeballs once I ran out of Ultra Balls, but we ran out of those as well. I just ended up using the Master Ball to catch it instead, since it's all we have left and the guide did tell us to catch it, so I guess it's fine. Next we have Azelf at Lake Valor, but this time the guide warns us about Nasty Plot, which can boost Azelf's special attack by 2 stages, enough to a point where it might knock out our Pokemon. I also wanted to note for how the Lake Trio, the guide shows their full movesets and ability, but doesn't do that for any other important battle in the game. Some guides detail the full moveset for each important trainers like gym leaders or rivals, while I've seen other guides that just show the full team for every single trainer in the game. Azelf was much more willing to join the team and only took 2 Ultra Balls, which was nice. Last up is Mesprit in Lake Verity, but there's a catch. Mesprit is a roaming Pokemon, so we need a special Poketchap to track it down. After trying to track it down for a while, it just flees and makes me regret using my Master Ball. The guide does suggest using moves like Mean Look or Block to trap Mesprit, so instead I just add Azelf to the team and venture off to Route 222. Route 222 is a straight shot, but goes from shore to Shining Shore, leading us to Sunny Shore City. The guide calls it a port town even though there's no boats here or even a port that I can see, unless you count this small beach area. As soon as we walk in there, we're met by Flint, a member of the Elite Four who is also friends with Volkner, the gym leader of Sunnyshore's City. It also turns out that the blackout that prevented us from coming here earlier on in the game was caused by an abuse of power in the gym using too much electricity and causing a blackout. There's a few ribbons we can get here as well. Then we can go to the Vista Lighthouse to see his sad Volkner and encourage him to return to the gym so we can fight him and get our 8th and final gym badge. Volkner has an electric type team, sort of, so the guide suggests ground type moves. We have Torterra and Quagsire, which are great here, then Luxray for his auxiliary. We don't really have a fighting type move anymore to hit Ambipom since I got rid of Medicham, so we just use Dialga instead, and with our 8th gym badge in hand, we can go to the shore and meet Jasmine, who tells us don't go chasing HM07 waterfalls, then gives us the HM07 waterfall, allowing us to finally access the Victory Road. The guide has a full map for Victory Road, making it easier to find our way through, then takes some time to talk about surprises and secrets of Pokemon. First, we have Pokemon of a different color, which are just shiny Pokemon. It doesn't call them shiny Pokemon since they didn't really have an official name back in 2007. Then it talks about Ocarus, which can help increase your Pokemon stats. I like that they threw this part in the middle of the walkthrough, since some players might have encountered a shiny Pokemon or Pokerus by now, and some guides just don't mention either of those things at all. Then finally, the Pokemon League. This is it. The last stretch, the final showdown. This is where great trainers are made. You've wanted this opportunity pretty badly, and now you must earn the right to call yourself the best by challenging the Elite Four and then the champion. We have one last rival fight before the Elite Four, and even though we are quite underleveled, we match up pretty nicely and exploit our rival's weaknesses to defeat him. Then we use the power of preparation to stock up on healing items for the Elite Four. First up is Aaron. Aaron will send out mostly bug-type Pokemon, with one poison and dark type in the mix. Hit the bug types Dustox, Heracross, Vespiquen, and Beautifly with fire and flying type moves. Drapion, as a different type, will have a different weakness, so hit it with ground type moves to finish it off. For ensured victory, it's best to use your Pokemon that know moves like Flamethrower, Drill Peck, and Earthquake. We of course still don't have any fire type moves, but we have Crobat with flying type moves, which is the next best thing. His Drapion was a little annoying though since it was not a bug type Pokemon and isn't weak to flying type, but the guide did suggest ground type moves for it, which we do have. Second up is Bertha. Bertha has a strong collection of Pokemon, and the only weakness that her Quagsire and Whiscash have is grass type moves. Not only that, but these moves will deal 4 times damage. Pull out the grass, water, fighting, and ground type moves for Sudowoodo and Golem, while trying grass, water, and ice on Hippowdon. If you need power against Bertha, then learn moves like Solar Beam and Surf to finish off her Pokemon. We are still quite a bit underleveled and still rely a lot on potions, but Surf on her ground types and grass moves on her Quagsire get us through. Next up is a familiar face in Flint. Though he's labeled as a fire type user, the group of Pokemon that Flint uses are actually quite diverse. Fortunately, all of them are vulnerable to ground type moves, which isn't true, so make frequent use of moves like Earthquake and Magnitude. Lopunny is also weak to fighting type moves, and against Drifloon, you have a choice of electric, ice, rock, ghost, or dark type moves. I think it's funny how Flint only has 2 fire type Pokemon, being the only 2 fire types obtainable before the post game. He was a bit harder than the previous 2 members, but thanks to having like 30 revives, we still defeat him. Fourth up is Lucian, and the guide says all of Lucian's Pokemon are psychic type, which makes them all strong opponents. But they have different weak points, so you'll have to show a variety in your attacks. Clear out Mr. Mime and Alakazam with Bug, Ghost, and Dark type moves. Then, keep the Ghost type moves and pull out Flying type moves as well to use on Medicham. You'll have to switch gears with Bronzong, who is really only vulnerable to Fire type moves. Finally, send Girafarig packing with Bug or Dark type moves. You too hit them all hard and fast, so use the most devastating moves possible when battling Lucian. We have Dark moves on a few of our Pokemon and even the Black Glasses to boost our Dark type attacks, so we give it to Luxray, which was very valuable in this matchup. That was still a tough fight because of our level disadvantage and where we're at, so it's no surprise that we can't battle Cynthia like this. We have to grind up the team a little bit more and make our way all the way back to Cynthia. Cynthia doesn't specialize in one type of Pokemon, and as such, there's no one surefire type that will take out her entire team. Her Spiritomb has no weaknesses in fact. You'll need to pull out your strongest, most powerful moves and try to deal as much damage as possible. Gastrodon will be especially weak to grass type moves, while you should fight Lucario with fire, ground, or fighting type moves. Roserade and Garchomp are vulnerable to ice type moves, and to bring down the mighty Milotic, use grass or electric type moves. Cynthia has a scary team, but we have the types to use against her, and rely heavily on Luxray again. Then it gets to a point where all she has is her Roserade, so we finish it off with our starter Pokemon Torterra with an Earthquake just as we started, to defeat Cynthia and beat Pokemon Diamond and Pearl how Nintendo intended. Overall, this guide was fine, had a few mistakes and left out some small things, but it was a very funny guide, and that's the best part about looking at these older guides. A lot of newer guides, and when I say newer, I really mean anything from the DS era or newer, tend to have a lot less mistakes and be more polished, making them less funny in general. But this one felt almost like the original Fire Red and Leaf Green guide we looked at almost 3 years ago now, which started this whole journey. I'm still amazed at how videos of just me essentially doing a vanilla playthrough of Pokemon games are so popular without doing any sort of challenges or adding any rules. I still do some challenge videos and Nuzlocke similar to this style as well though, so you should check out those other videos as well, especially if you made it this far in this video and enjoyed it. Compared to the original Diamond and Pearl guide we looked at, I feel like we did more stuff in this current playthrough, but the video was about 10 minutes shorter than the first one, so I don't know if I just rushed parts of this game without realizing it or just got more efficient with writing my scripts, but either way I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, have a great rest of your day, I'll see you all next time, and bye bye.